Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Goodwin, President and CEO of TurningWest, a national organization development and leadership consulting firm based here in the greater Los Angeles area. I am so excited to be with you in this process of creating what will be for you a culture transition and succession plan document. Our premise around succession planning is a bit different than other firms you may experience. We believe that in the process of moving from this era of leadership to the next, it's imperative that you shepherd your culture so that the next leader understands that culture and can continue it. We want you to identify the elements of your culture that you most value, that you think are the quintessential elements of who you are as a society, so that we can make sure that we transition those and shepherd those from this period to the next for greater missional success. We will also certainly make plans for an unplanned emergency, a planned emergency, to move from this leader to the next leader you hope to have happen for your organization. So we want to begin by calling your attention to the diagram, the process diagram we gave you. You will notice that we expect around 10 task force meetings. You'll notice that 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 meetings are a different color. We intend in those odd-numbered meetings that you'll meet together without us. You'll need to do some preliminary homework to investigate some elements of your culture and gather documents and do some research and a lot of homework so that we can pull together all the pieces of this written plan. In meetings 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, our TurningWest consultant team will be with you. We'll be alongside you to help you wrestle and think through and pull together all the threads that will be this final document. We know this will be a bit of a challenge. It always is. Culture is a pretty difficult item to get a handle on. All of us are part of a culture, but we don't think much of those cultures. I'm a part of an American culture. I grew up in a Norwegian culture in Minnesota. I'm part of a corporate culture at TurningWest. You too, likewise, are part of multiple cultures simultaneously. But your organization is unique. It has its own organization culture. So in the first part of these sessions together, sessions 1 through 4 at least, we're going to invite you towards 2 goals. 1, to capture in written section in the document, what is your current culture? In 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, try to describe what makes you you. Are you buttoned up and formal? Are you informal and crazy? Are you what? We don't know. We want you to tell us and to tell yourselves. And second, we want you to describe for yourselves what an ideal organizational culture would look like. Now, we know that no organization is perfect. We all have things that we would like to perfect. But it's helpful as a part of any leadership endeavor to know we are here and we'd like to be here. That way we have goals to aim for, places that we can improve. So as a part of this document that we'll end this process with, we'd like a section that describes your current culture with some bullet points that capture the quintessential elements of who you are. And we'd like a section that captures your ideal culture with some bullet points that captures who you ideally would like to become so that you can have the most impact for mission. This is going to be a bit of a challenge, we understand. All of us struggle to identify culture. In fact, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, culture gets transmitted below the level of our conscious awareness. From one new employee to one outgoing employee, down through the decades and off into the future. Culture is always at work, shaping our behaviors in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. To help you begin to uncrack this element of culture and describe who you are as a people, we've created for you what we're calling our culture self-assessment. Admittedly, this is a bit of a test on our part. This stems from the work that I'm doing to create my next book called Realigning Culture, Creating Organizational Transformation That Lasts. In that work, I've identified 10 primary culture embedding mechanisms that are the formative processes that shape and reshape your organization's culture. The document describes each 10 of those with some questions and some thought-provoking items to get you to start to wrestle with how these forces are at work shaping your culture. We know this will be a struggle. We understand that. And we know that in these first sessions you won't get through all 10 of these. It will take some time. We get that too. What we'd like to ask of you, however, is to wrestle with these topics, to think through how it pertains to that picture of your current culture and that picture of your ideal organizational culture. In sessions 2 and 4, we'll be with you mulling that over using our outside perspective, having seen hundreds and hundreds of organizations and having this body of specialized knowledge, with your insider knowledge, your intimate awareness of the culture that you are a part of. And together at the intersection of that outsider and insider perspective is where we think the magic will happen. We know this will be a challenge. We understand that. Wrestle with it with us. And if the document doesn't quite help you as much as we'd hoped it would, just set it aside and go with your gut. The other part of this early phase of our self-discovery together will be to try to figure out, are there elements of your culture that, well, let me put it politely, are dysfunctional, that need to be realigned. This key awareness will drive a key decision point in the culture and succession planning document, which is namely, do we have an immediate overlap or an immediate congruence of one leader to the next, or should we have a gap, an interim period, in which we take some time intentionally to realign our culture and to take time to address some things in our system before we call our next leader. So we'd like you to think through that as well, and we will wrestle that over with you in sessions 2 and 4. Along the way, we're going to do some other things as well. We're going to invite you to think through whether you want this plan to entail just your executive director or CEO, or whether it should go to the level below that, and maybe even the level below that. We invite you to put together some language in this final plan that describes how you're going about creating more and better leaders as your own internal leadership development system within your culture. Do you have a process for that? Should you have a process for that? What is the process for that? These are some things we want to capture in language in a section in the final written document. Likewise, we'd like you to think through how your board is creating more and better leaders. We'd like you to think through how you're actively now going about creating your next chair and your board chair after that and the board chair after that. You know, and we know as well, that your board leadership is crucial to your organization's success. And we probably expect that you've had experiences like we've had, where you have one great leader as a board chair, the next not so great, a great one, and not so great. We'd love for you to smooth that process out by intentionally working a plan to create great board chairs, one after the other, after the other. All this will wrap into the plan, tailor-made just for you. We know this process will be a little dynamic and a little messy at times. That's the nature of these things. Don't worry, we've been through this many times with many clients before. We'll walk you through every step of the way. We hope you won't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email when you've got a question or you're wrestling with something and you can't quite figure it out. We're here to guide you through the process all the way from beginning to end. But ultimately our goal is that you have created a process that works for you. We're just the guides. If we do too much directing, it will be our plan and not your plan, and we wouldn't want that. It won't work for you. It'll come across as what we call foreign tissue rejection. Also in this early phase, we're going to invite you to do a little research. We're going to invite you to gather up the pertinent job descriptions, to examine them. Are they accurate? Do they accurately describe what those people do now, or should they be revised or perhaps scrapped altogether? We want you to think through that as well in this first session or two. So, We'd like you to stop this tape now, and I'll come back at the end of your session just for a couple of minutes to give you some further assignments in preparation for our setting 2, when we'll be there with you together. Have a great session together for hopefully 60 and no more than 90 minutes. That's our goal. And then we expect that you'll leave with some assignments to do some homework before our next session. Welcome back. I hope you've had a wonderful time with each other, discussing and wrestling with and toying with these ideas about what is your current culture and what's your ideal culture, and how ready you are for succession. I hope also you had a chance to delegate assignments to different folks on your task force, to have some work done in between this meeting and our second task force session when we'll be together with you. I encourage all of you to take some time, just a few minutes, over a cup of coffee on a Sunday afternoon or in a kind of a leisurely moment at home, to try to capture into language how you would describe your current culture and some bullet points, and maybe try to capture into some language, a few paragraphs or so, what your ideal culture looks like and some bullet points. And as you go back and forth assimilating all that in preparation for our next time, we'll start in that place with our discussion with you around culture and analyzing how ready are you for succession. Till next time.